The bridge of the Coalition flagship Eternal Dawn fell silent as the last human ship drifted powerless through space. Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthan Empire stood before the massive viewing screen, his forearms crossed behind his back as he watched the human destroyer USS Defiance slowly spin in the void. Smoke leaked from its hull breaches, and no lights flickered on its command deck. 3 years, Zethkar said to his bridge crew, his voice carrying the satisfaction of complete victory. 3 years of war against these primitive humans, and now look at them. He gestured toward the wreckage floating around the mining colony of New Dakota. Dozens of human ships lay broken and dead, their crews either captured or killed in the final battle. Commander Veltar, the Coalition's chief communications officer, looked up from his console. The insectoid alien's compound eyes reflected the glow of his instruments as he processed the incoming transmissions. "Sir, we are receiving a surrender message from the human vessel Defiance. Their captain wishes to speak with you." Zethkar's mandibles clicked together in what passed for a smile among his species. "Put him through. Let us hear what this defeated human has to say." The main screen flickered and the image of a human male appeared. He looked to be in his 40s, with short brown hair and tired eyes. His uniform was torn and blood-stained, and burns covered the left side of his face. Behind him, the bridge of his ship was a mess of sparking consoles and dead crew members. "This is Captain Jake Morrison, of the United Earth Defense Force," the human said, his voice steady despite his obvious defeat. "I am requesting terms of surrender for my crew and the remaining civilian population on New Dakota." Zethkar stepped forward, his massive frame casting a shadow across the communications console. "Captain Morrison, I am Admiral Zethkar of the Vorthan Empire and Supreme Commander of the Coalition forces. You have fought bravely, but your resistance is at an end. Surrender your vessel and submit to Coalition authority." Morrison nodded slowly. "I understand, Admiral. My ship is dead in space, my weapons are offline, and my crew is dying. I have no choice but to surrender. I formally surrender the USS Defiance and all remaining Earth forces in this sector to Coalition Command." The human captain paused, then spoke again. "I have one request, Admiral. The civilian population on New Dakota includes women and children. I ask that they be treated according to the laws of war." Zethkar's four eyes narrowed. "The Coalition is not without mercy, Captain. Your civilians will be relocated to appropriate facilities where they can contribute to the war effort. As for your military personnel, those who survive will be processed according to Coalition protocol." Morrison's jaw tightened, but he nodded. "I understand, Admiral. I am transmitting our surrender codes now." He looked directly into the camera, his expression unreadable. "The children are coming home." The transmission ended, and the bridge of the Eternal Dawn erupted in cheers. Officers from a dozen different species celebrated the end of the war. The humans had proven more stubborn than expected, but they were still a young species with primitive technology. Their defeat had been inevitable. Veltar worked at his console, processing the surrender codes that Morrison had transmitted. "Sir, I am confirming the shutdown of all human weapon systems. Their defensive networks are going offline across the system." General Crixton, the Coalition's ground forces commander, stepped forward. The reptilian warrior's scales gleamed under the bridge lights as he spoke. "Admiral, my troops are ready to begin surface operations. We can have the human population secured within 12 hours. Zethkar turned to study the tactical display. New Dakota hung in space like a blue-green jewel, its surface dotted with mining operations and small settlements. According to intelligence reports, nearly 50,000 humans lived on the planet, most of them workers and their families. "Proceed with the occupation, General. Establish control zones and begin processing the civilian population. I want them ready for transport to the labor camps within the week." "Understood, Admiral." Crixton saluted and left the bridge to oversee the landing operations. On the planet's surface, Coalition dropships began their descent. The first wave carried assault troops who secured the major population centers without resistance. The human colonial militia had been destroyed in the orbital battle, and the remaining civilians offered no organized opposition. In the town of New Hope, the largest settlement on New Dakota, Mayor Linda Parker stood in the town square as coalition troops marched through the streets. The alien soldiers moved with mechanical precision, their weapons ready but not immediately threatening. Children hid behind their parents as the occupying force established checkpoints and began rounding up the adult population. Citizens of New Dakota, a voice announced through speakers mounted on coalition vehicles. You are now under coalition authority. Remain calm and follow all instructions. Resistance will be met with appropriate force. Parker watched as families were separated, with men being loaded onto transport vehicles while women and children were herded into temporary holding areas. The coalition efficiency was impressive and terrifying. Within hours, the entire human population was under alien control, back in orbit. Admiral Zethkar received reports from his field commanders. The occupation was proceeding smoothly, with no significant resistance from the human population. The few remaining human ships had been secured, and their crews were being processed for interrogation. Sir, Veltar reported, we are receiving confirmation from all sector commanders. Human resistance has ended. The war is over. Zethkar nodded with satisfaction. The coalition had achieved total victory. Earth's outer colonies would fall within days, and the human homeworld would be defenseless. The upstart species that had dared to challenge the established order would be reduced to a slave race, their technology and resources absorbed into the coalition empire. Send a message to the High Council, Zethkar ordered. Inform them that the human threat has been eliminated. The coalition is victorious. As the message was transmitted across the galaxy, coalition forces began the systematic dismantling of human civilization in the New Dakota system. The war that had lasted 3 years was finally over, or so they believed. Deep in the bowels of the USS Defiance, Captain Morrison sat in his damaged command chair, a slight smile playing at the corners of his mouth. The surrender had been transmitted. The codes had been sent, and the coalition had taken the bait. Phase 1 of Operation Homecoming was complete. The children were indeed coming home. 3 days passed since the human surrender, and the coalition fleet had settled into a comfortable routine. Admiral Zethkar stood in his private quarters aboard the Eternal Dawn, composing his final report to the High Council. The war against humanity was over, and his victory was complete. The human resistance has been eliminated, he dictated to his recording device. Their fleet is destroyed, their colonies are under our control, and their population is being processed for relocation. The species that dared to challenge coalition authority has been reduced to a manageable slave workforce. Through his viewport, Zethkar could see the wreckage of human ships still floating in space around New Dakota. His engineers had already begun salvaging useful materials from the debris. The human technology was primitive but interesting in its simplicity. Perhaps some of their innovations could be adapted for coalition use. On the bridge, the atmosphere was relaxed. Officers chatted casually at their stations while monitoring the routine patrol schedules. The coalition fleet had spread out across the system, with most ships conducting standard security sweeps. The threat level had been reduced to minimal, and many crew members were rotating through shore leave on the captured planet. Commander Veltar processed the daily communications traffic with half his attention. Most of the messages were routine status reports from ground forces and supply requests from various ships. The war was over, and the excitement had faded into bureaucratic routine. Sir, a junior communications officer approached Veltar's station. We have a message from the High Council requesting an update on the human situation. Veltar glanced at the message and nodded. Inform them that all human military assets have been neutralized. The species poses no further threat to coalition interests. Across the system, coalition forces had established a firm grip on human territory. General Crixton's ground troops had completed their occupation of New Dakota, and the human population was being transported to holding facilities. The operation had been so successful that half of his assault divisions were being reassigned to other sectors. In the damaged human cruiser USS Valiant, Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez worked quietly in the ship's engineering section. The Valiant had been written off as a total loss by the Coalition forces, its hull breached and its reactor offline. The alien salvage teams had stripped away everything they considered valuable and left the ship to drift with the other wreckage. Rodriguez had been hiding in the ship's lower decks with 12 other survivors when the Coalition boarding party swept through. They had remained hidden in the damaged sections, breathing recycled air and eating emergency rations while the aliens cataloged their dead ship. Now that the Coalition had moved on, Rodriguez was attempting to restore basic systems. "Commander," Petty Officer Nick Collins whispered as he crawled through a maintenance tunnel, "I've got the emergency power grid working in sections 7 through 12. We can restore life support to the forward compartments." Rodriguez nodded, careful not to make any noise that might attract attention from Coalition sensors. "Good work, Collins. How long before we can get the communications array online?" "Maybe 6 hours if we're lucky," Collins replied. "The main transmitter is fried, but I might be able to jury-rig something from the escape pod beacons." The Valiants. Survivors worked through the night, carefully restoring systems without creating energy signatures that might alert Coalition patrols. Rodriguez monitored enemy communications through a salvaged receiver, noting the relaxed patrol patterns and reduced alert status throughout the system. The Coalition believed the war was over, and their guard was down. "Perfect dot on Earth, General?" Marcus Webb stood before the emergency session of the United Earth Defense Council. The massive chamber beneath the Rocky Mountains held representatives from every human colony and military district. The weight of their decision would determine humanity's future in the galaxy. "Phase 1 of Operation Homecoming has been completed successfully," Webb announced to the assembled council members. "The Coalition has accepted our surrender and believes they have witnessed the full extent of human military capability." President Catherine Moore leaned forward in her chair. "What are our casualties, General?" Webb's expression remained neutral. "Acceptable losses, Madame President. The Colonial Defense Forces performed their role admirably. The Coalition believes they have defeated our primary military assets." Councilman Robert Hayes from the Mars colony raised his hand. "General, are we certain the Coalition has taken the bait? If they discover our true capabilities before we're ready, the consequences could be catastrophic." "The intelligence reports confirm that Coalition forces are operating under minimal alert status," Webb replied. "They have reduced their patrol coverage and are focusing on occupation duties. Admiral Zethkar has already sent victory reports to the High Council." Webb activated a holographic display showing the Coalition fleet positions around New Dakota. "The enemy has deployed their forces exactly as we predicted. They believe they are conducting mop-up operations against a defeated enemy. They have no idea what's coming." President Moore stood and addressed the council. "The time has come to activate the final phase of our plan. General Webb, you have authorization to proceed with Operation Homecoming." Webb saluted and walked to the secure communications console. He entered his authorization codes and opened a channel to coordinates far beyond the outer rim of known space. The transmission would take several hours to reach its destination, but when it did, everything would change. "Phoenix Command, this is Webb," he spoke into the transmitter. "Authorization code Alpha-7-7-9er. The children are coming home." "Repeat, the children are coming home." The message raced through space at faster than light speed, heading toward a region of space that appeared empty on every Coalition star chart. In the darkness between stars, massive shapes began to stir as the signal reached its destination, back. On New Dakota, Coalition forces continued their routine occupation duties. The human population had been processed and prepared for transport to labor camps throughout Coalition space. The planet's resources were being cataloged and prepared for extraction. Everything was proceeding according to plan. General Crixton reviewed the weekly status reports in his temporary headquarters. The human prisoners were cooperative, the civilian population was subdued, and there had been no incidents of resistance. The occupation was a complete success. "Sir," his aide approached with a datapad, "we have completed the population census." Total human civilians, 47,312. Military prisoners, 843. All accounted for and ready for transport. Crixton signed the report and filed it away. Another conquered species, another successful campaign. The coalition machine rolled forward, absorbing new territories and resources with mechanical efficiency. None of them suspected that their victory was about to become their destruction. The coalition's comfortable routine shattered at exactly 347 hours system time when the first energy signatures appeared on long-range sensors. Lieutenant Kelvin, a young hegemony officer monitoring the night shift, stared at his display in confusion. The readings showed massive objects moving through hyperspace at impossible speeds. "Commander Veltar to the bridge," Kelvin called over the ship's communication system. "We have unknown contacts approaching from deep space." Veltar arrived within minutes, his compound eyes focusing on the sensor display. What he saw made his blood run cold. The energy signatures were enormous, far larger than anything in the Coalition database. Worse, they were moving at velocities that should have been impossible for ships of that size. "Sound general quarters," Veltar ordered. "Wake the Admiral." Immediately. Admiral Zethkar reached the bridge, still fastening his uniform as alarms echoed throughout the ship. The relaxed atmosphere of the past 3 days vanished as crew members rushed to their battle stations. The massive viewing screen showed tactical displays with dozens of red contacts approaching from the edge of the system. "Report," Zethkar commanded. "Sir, we have 37 confirmed contacts approaching at high speed," Veltar replied. "Their energy signatures are off the scale. These ships are larger than anything we've encountered before." Zethkar studied the display, his forearms working frantically at the command console. "Are they human vessels?" "Unknown, sir. The energy patterns don't match any known human technology. But they're coming from the direction of human space." The first wave of unknown ships dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the system, and the Coalition fleet got its first look at humanity's true military power. The lead vessel was a massive dreadnought that dwarfed even the Coalition's largest battleships. Its hull was sleek and black, covered in weapon ports and armor plating that seemed to absorb sensor scans. Captain Lisa Harper stood on the bridge of the human dreadnought USS Retribution, watching the Coalition fleet scramble to respond to their arrival. She had waited 3 years for this moment, hidden in the deep space shipyards beyond the galactic rim while the Coalition believed they were fighting humanity's real military. "All ships, this is Harper," she spoke into her communications array. "Execute Battle Plan Alpha. Show them what human engineering can really do." The Retribution's weapon systems came online with a hum that vibrated through the massive ship's hull. The dreadnought's main guns were kinetic accelerators that could punch through a planet's crust. Its secondary weapons were plasma cannons that burned hotter than a star's core. This was not the primitive technology the Coalition had faced. Before, Admiral Zethkar watched in horror as more human ships continued to arrive. Cruisers, destroyers, and carriers emerged from hyperspace in perfect formation. Each vessel was larger and more advanced than anything humanity had shown during the 3-year war. The Coalition fleet spread out across the system in patrol. Formations was completely unprepared for this assault. "How is this possible?" Zethkar muttered. "We destroyed their fleet. We saw their ships burn." The answer came in the form of a transmission from the USS Retribution. Captain Harper's image appeared on the main screen, her uniform crisp and her expression cold. Behind her, the bridge of the dreadnought hummed with advanced technology that made Coalition equipment look primitive. "Admiral Zethkar, I am Captain Lisa Harper of the United Earth Defense Force. You have been deceived. The ships you destroyed were our colonial defense fleet, not our military. You have just met humanity's real navy." Zethkar's mandibles clicked. Frantically, "Impossible. Our intelligence reports showed no other human forces." Harper smiled without warmth. "Your intelligence was exactly what we wanted you to see. While you were fighting our miners and colonists, we were building a fleet that could conquer the galaxy. You fell for the oldest trick in warfare, Admiral. We let you win. The human dreadnought's main guns fired, and the Coalition destroyer, Crimson Blade, simply ceased to exist. The kinetic round passed through its hull like paper, leaving only expanding debris where a ship had been seconds before. The display of power sent shockwaves through the Coalition fleet. All ships, attack pattern Delta, Zethkar ordered desperately. Focus fire on the lead human vessel. The Coalition ships opened fire with everything they had but their energy. Weapons splashed harmlessly against the human ship's shields. The Retribution's defensive systems absorbed the assault without even dimming the bridge lights. The technology gap was staggering. More human ships entered the battle, each one demonstrating capabilities that the Coalition had never imagined. Human fighters moved with impossible speed and agility, their pilots enhanced with genetic modifications that allowed them to survive maneuvers that would kill ordinary beings. Human cruisers fired weapons that seemed to bend space itself, creating gravity wells that crushed Coalition vessels. In the USS Retribution's launch bay, Colonel Ryan Phillips prepared his assault troops for deployment. The first human assault division was humanity's answer to Coalition ground forces. Each soldier was genetically enhanced for combat. Their reflexes boosted to superhuman levels and their strength increased beyond normal human limits. "Listen up, warriors," Phillips addressed his troops as they suited up in their power armor. "The Coalition thinks they know what humans are capable of. They've seen our farmers and miners fight. Today they meet our soldiers, the assault troops. Check their weapons one final time." Each suit of power armor was a masterpiece of human engineering, capable of withstanding direct hits from Coalition energy weapons while amplifying the wearer's strength and speed. The soldiers inside were volunteers from Earth's most elite military units, enhanced with the best technology humanity could create. "Remember the briefing," Phillips continued. "We're not just here to win a battle, we're here to end this war permanently. The Coalition started this fight when they attacked our colonies. We're going to finish it." The assault transport USS Thunderstrike launched from the Retribution's bay, heading directly for the Coalition flagship. Behind it, dozens of similar transports carried the full strength of humanity's assault divisions. The Coalition fleet, already reeling from the naval battle, was about to face an enemy they had never encountered before. Admiral Zethkar watched the approaching transports with growing dread. His flagship shields were failing under the relentless human assault, and his fleet was being systematically destroyed by weapons that seemed to come from another era of technological development. The humans had not just hidden their true military strength, they had leaped centuries ahead in military technology. "Sir," Veltar reported, his voice shaking, "we're detecting boarding craft approaching our position. They're moving too fast for our point defense systems to target." Zethkar looked at the tactical display and realized the truth. Humanity had not just won this battle, they had won the war before it even began. The Coalition had been fighting shadows while the real enemy prepared for total victory. The real war was just beginning. The USS Thunderstrike smashed through the Coalition flagship's hangar bay doors like they were made of paper. The assault transport's armored hull barely showed scratches from the impact as it settled onto the deck amid twisted metal in emergency lighting. Coalition security forces rushed toward the breach, their weapons ready. But they had no idea what was about to emerge from the human ship. Colonel Ryan Phillips stepped out of the transport first, his power armor gleaming under the emergency lights. The suit stood nearly 8 feet tall and was painted in the dark blue of Earth's assault forces. Behind him, 30 enhanced soldiers followed in perfect formation, their movements synchronized and deadly. Each soldier carried weapons that looked simple but were designed to punch through any armor the Coalition could produce. "Secure the hangar," Phillips ordered through his suit's communication system. "Team Alpha, take the left corridor. Team Beta, right corridor. Remember, we want prisoners, but don't hesitate to eliminate resistance." The Coalition security forces opened fire, their energy weapons creating bright flashes as they struck the human armor. The soldiers inside the power suits barely felt the impacts. The energy that would have killed an unprotected Being was absorbed by the armor's defensive systems and converted into power for the suit's weapons. Sergeant Danny Torres raised his kinetic rifle and fired 3 precise shots. The Coalition soldiers dropped instantly, their protective gear useless against the high-velocity rounds. The human weapons had been specifically designed to counter Coalition armor and shields, using solid projectiles that ignored energy-based defenses. "Contact front," Torres reported calmly. 3 hostiles down. Advancing to Checkpoint Alpha. The human soldiers moved through the flagship's corridors like a force of nature. Their enhanced reflexes allowed them to react to threats before Coalition soldiers could even aim their weapons. Their improved strength let them tear through bulkheads and barriers that would have stopped normal troops. The genetic modifications that humanity had developed during their hidden preparation turned ordinary soldiers into something far more dangerous. Phillips led his team toward the bridge, following a route that had been memorized from captured Coalition ship blueprints. The aliens had never changed their basic designs, confident that their technology was superior to anything younger species could produce. That confidence was now proving fatal. In the ship's command center, Admiral Zethkar listened to the reports flooding in from across his fleet. Human assault troops had boarded 17 Coalition vessels, and none of the boarding parties had been stopped. The alien crews, trained to fight enemies with similar technology, were helpless against humanity's enhanced soldiers. "Sir," Commander Veltar reported, his voice filled with panic, "we're receiving reports of human troops in Section 12. They've breached the security checkpoint and are advancing toward the bridge." Zethkar activated the ship's internal defenses, hoping to slow the human advance. Automated gun turrets emerged from the walls, but their energy weapons were as useless as the handheld versions. The human armor absorbed the attacks while the soldiers inside methodically destroyed each defensive position on the planet's surface. Major Kevin Stone led the 2nd Assault Battalion in the liberation of the human prison camps. The Coalition ground forces had been caught completely unprepared for the orbital assault. Their communications were jammed, their supply lines were cut, and their command structure was collapsing under the human attack. Stone's soldiers moved through the prison complex with frightening efficiency. The enhanced humans could run faster than Coalition vehicles, jump higher than their barriers, and see in complete darkness. What should have been a difficult assault became a systematic elimination of enemy resistance. "Sector 7 is secure," Lieutenant Sarah Martinez reported, as her squad finished clearing the last guard tower. "All Coalition forces neutralized. Beginning prisoner evacuation." The human colonists watched in amazement as their rescuers worked. These were not the same colonial defense forces that had fought the Coalition 3 years ago. These soldiers moved like machines, their coordination perfect and their weapons devastatingly effective. The power armor made them look like ancient warriors brought into the space age. "Don't be afraid," Stone told the freed prisoners as they were led to safety. "We're taking you home. The Coalition will never threaten human space again." Back in orbit, Captain Helen North piloted the assault ship USS Vengeance through the wreckage of the Coalition fleet. The battle had turned into a complete rout as human technology proved overwhelmingly superior to anything the aliens could field. Coalition ships that had seemed invincible were being destroyed with single shots from human weapons. "Target the command ship," North ordered her gunner. "Let's end this quickly." The Vengeance's main cannon fired, and the Coalition cruiser Blade of Victory exploded in a ball of superheated plasma. The ship's shields hadn't even slowed the human projectile. North watched the destruction with satisfaction, knowing that every Coalition ship destroyed was one less threat to human colonies. On the flagship's bridge, Phillips and his team finally reached their objective. The blast doors that protected the command center were made of the strongest materials in Coalition space, but the human soldiers cut through them with plasma torches that burned hotter than a star's core. Admiral Zethkar stood in the center of his ruined bridge, his forearms raised in surrender. Around him, his surviving bridge crew huddled behind their consoles, too terrified to move. The humans had torn through his ship's defenses like they didn't exist. "Admiral Zethkar, Phillips," said, his voice amplified by his suit's speakers. You are now a prisoner of the United Earth Defense Force. Your fleet is destroyed. Your army is defeated, and your war is over. Zethkar looked at the towering human soldier and realized the magnitude of his mistake. The Coalition had not been fighting humanity's military. They had been fighting humanity's civilians. The real human war machine had been hidden in deep space, preparing for this moment of total victory. How long? Zethkar asked quietly. How long have you been preparing for this? Phillips removed his helmet, revealing a face that was calm and professional. Since the day you attacked our first colony, Admiral. Every human death, every destroyed settlement, every act of coalition aggression has been building toward this moment. You taught us that the galaxy is a dangerous place. We learned the lesson well. The battle was over, but the war was just beginning. Throughout Coalition space, similar scenes were playing out as human forces struck at every major military installation. The species that had thought humanity was weak and primitive was learning the truth. Humans were not just another alien race trying to survive among the stars. They were the apex predators of the galaxy, and they were done hiding their true nature. The Coalition had started this war by attacking human colonies. Humanity was going to finish it by conquering the Coalition Empire. 6 months after the Battle of New Dakota, General Marcus Webb stood in the Grand Council chamber on Nexus Prime, the former capital world of the Coalition Empire. The massive hall that had once echoed with the voices of proud alien leaders now served as a human courtroom. The Coalition High Council sat in restraint chairs, their once mighty empire reduced to ashes around them. Webb wore the simple green uniform of the United Earth Defense Force, but every alien in the room knew he was the most powerful being in the galaxy. The human fleet orbited Nexus Prime like a steel reminder of their complete defeat. 60 dreadnoughts hung in space above the planet, each one capable of reducing a continent to glass. Members of the former Coalition High Council, Webb began, his voice carrying easily through the silent chamber. You stand accused of crimes against humanity and unprovoked aggression against peaceful colonies. The evidence against you is overwhelming. High Chancellor Mortek of the Hegemony, the Coalition's former supreme leader, raised his head to speak. The insectoid alien's compound eyes were dull with defeat, but he still tried to maintain some dignity. General Webb, we demand to be treated according to the laws of war. We are prisoners, not criminals. Webb's expression remained neutral as he consulted the datapad in his hands. The laws of war, Chancellor? Let me read from your own Coalition military manual. Quote, civilian populations of defeated species may be relocated for the greater good of the Coalition, unquote. Is that the law you want me to follow? The High Chancellor said nothing, and Webb continued. Your forces attacked 17 human colonies without warning. Your soldiers killed 200,000 civilians, including children. Your own records show that you plan to enslave the entire human species. These are not the actions of honorable warriors. Admiral Zethkar, still bearing the scars from his capture at New Dakota, spoke from his restraint chair. You humans are no different from us. You have conquered our worlds and enslaved our people. How does that make you superior? Webb turned to face the Vorthan Admiral directly. The difference, Admiral, is that we didn't start this war. Every action we've taken has been in response to Coalition aggression. But you're right about one thing. We have conquered your worlds, and your people now serve under human authority. The General activated a holographic display that showed the current state of former Coalition space. Human fleets patrolled every major system, and human governors administered the former alien territories. The transformation had been swift and absolute. However, Webb continued, unlike the Coalition, we believe in redemption. Species that accept human authority and prove their commitment to peace will be granted self-governance under the human protectorate. Those that choose continued resistance will face the consequences. Captain Jake Morrison, now promoted to Admiral, entered the chamber and approached Webb. The former destroyer captain had been given command of the occupation forces, overseeing the integration of conquered territories into the human sphere of Influence. General, Morrison said quietly, we've received reports from the outer systems. The hegemony resistance cells have been eliminated, and the Vorthan military has formally surrendered. The war is officially over. Webb nodded and turned back to the assembled alien leaders. You have two choices. Accept the terms of surrender and work toward rebuilding your civilizations under human guidance, or face permanent imprisonment on the penal worlds we've established in the Outer Rim. One by one, the former coalition leaders accepted the human terms. They had no choice. Their fleets were destroyed, their armies scattered, and their populations under human control. The species that had once ruled half the galaxy were now subjects of the very race they had tried to exterminate. In the Human Fleet Command Center orbiting Nexus Prime, Admiral Morrison reviewed the latest intelligence reports. The transition to human rule was proceeding more smoothly than anyone had expected. Most alien populations had accepted their new reality, and some were even cooperating enthusiastically with their human administrators. Lieutenant Commander Amy Rodriguez, now captain of the rebuilt USS Valiant, delivered her daily patrol report. Sir, we've completed the security sweep of the Corlin system. No signs of resistance activity. The local government has formally requested admission to the Human Protectorate. Morrison smiled slightly. Rodriguez had proven herself during the dark days after the fake surrender, keeping her crew alive in a dead ship while gathering intelligence on coalition operations. Her promotion had been well earned. Approved, Captain. Add the Corlin system to the Protectorate list. What's the status of the integration program? Rodriguez consulted her datapad. We now have 47 former coalition species serving in human military units. The hegemony engineers have been particularly useful in improving our ship designs. The Vorthan pilots are adapting well to human fighter craft. The irony was not lost on Morrison. The same species that had tried to conquer humanity were now serving under human command, their skills and knowledge added to the growing human war machine. Some had chosen service over imprisonment, while others genuinely believed that human leadership offered a better future than the old coalition system on Earth. President Catherine Moore addressed the United Earth Assembly from the Capitol building. In Geneva, the hall was packed with representatives from human colonies that had been thought lost forever. The liberation of occupied territories had revealed that human civilization was far more extensive than even the government had known. Citizens of Earth and the colonies, Moore began. 6 months ago, we faced extinction at the hands of an alien empire that saw us as nothing more than a primitive species to be enslaved. Today, that empire serves under human authority, and our civilization spans half the galaxy. The audience erupted in cheers, but Moore raised her hand for silence. We must remember that with great power comes great responsibility. We are now the guardians of dozens of alien species and hundreds of worlds. We must prove that humanity deserves the position we have claimed. Deep in the research facilities beneath the Rocky Mountains, human scientists worked alongside alien researchers to unlock new technologies. The coalition had possessed knowledge that humanity lacked, just as humans had developed innovations that the aliens had never imagined. The combination was producing advances that neither species could have achieved alone. Dr. Lisa Chun, the lead scientist on the Joint Research Project, reviewed the latest results with her alien counterpart, a hegemony engineer named Clixver. The insectoid scientist had initially been hostile to human rule, but months of working together had created mutual respect. The new engine designs are remarkable, Clixver admitted through his translation device. Human intuitive engineering combined with hegemony precision. Manufacturing could produce ships faster than anything previously built. Chun nodded, studying the holographic blueprints floating between them. The coalition made one critical mistake. They assumed that conquest was the only way to gain strength. Humans prefer cooperation, but we're very good at conquest when it's necessary. The message was clear throughout former coalition space. Humanity offered partnership to those who chose peace and overwhelming force to those who chose war. The galaxy had learned that humans were not just another species trying to survive among the stars. They were the new apex predators, and everyone else was living in their universe now. In the depths of space, vast shipyards continued their work, building vessels that dwarfed even the dreadnoughts that had won the war. Humanity's message, too. The remaining independent alien governments was simple: join the human protectorate willingly, or face the consequences of resistance. The children had indeed come home, and they had brought the galaxy with them.